Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I'm back with another emergency card kit. If you're new to my channel, an emergency card is one where we make the cards ahead of time and we use one of two key sentiment sizes. This is an emergency card using our rectangle sentiment. It's a 2 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch rectangle. And if I decided I actually needed this card to be a birthday card, I can choose from over 1,500 sentiments and find the perfect birthday sentiment to add on there at the last minute. Or maybe I need a thank you card or a teacher card around the holidays. You are prepared for all of that. Over here, I have a unique sentiment size for you, and I have ephemera that will fit on there, and you'll see that in the kit today. Let's take a look at this kit. This is Classic Christmas, our Christmas in July kit. And I'll be honest, I was aiming to make a smaller kit, but this is almost as big as most of the other kits. There are maybe fewer sentiments. So if you don't see the holiday sentiments you're looking for, look in the description box below. There's a link to the emergency card kit holiday playlist, and it will quickly link you to all the videos with holiday kits that I've released in previous years. But what we have in here is a ton of like clip art and pattern paper and other visual elements, variations on the sentiment layouts that I think you're really gonna like. Merry Christmas wishes. Snowman season is the best season. Do not open until December 25th. Happy holiday wishes. Deck the halls. Christmas cocoa tastes the best. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. And then those repeat down here. We have this with a printed circle that is slightly larger than 1 3/4 of an inch. So if I take my punch and I just wiggle it in here until I can't see that circle anymore, I'll know that it's centered. And then if you want to punch it out or die cut it out in a different shape or a different size, there's another page where I have removed that printed circle. And then we have our card sketch. I love this one. I'm using rectangles here because everybody has rectangles, but you can replace that with any tall, skinny shape. So keep that in mind. I think that's really fun for holiday cards. These first 3 pages, the 2 sentiment pages and the card sketch, are available for free right here in YouTube. So click below the video on more or show more, and it will unpack that description box and you'll find everything you need to download those 3 pages. If you would like access to bonus pages, free pages, but bonus pages, those are linked in my Patreon. If you're new to Patreon, it is a membership-based program and I have a free membership. So right next to the free kit in the description box below, there's a link into the post you need in Patreon, but there's also a video tutorial explaining my Patreon to you, what it is, how it works, and how to join for free. The download in that post will include rectangle sentiments as well. So if you don't have punches or dies, these are great for you. We just use the tick marks on the side to cut those out. Then we have tuck strip sentiments. I was hinting at these. Let me know if you caught that in the last post. There are all the same sentiments and you get them twice. I use the black lines to cut them out and I leave this white strip right here, though there is an optional cut line if you want to remove that. They'll fit on a 3 inch by 1 inch mat, and then that white piece tucks underneath a 2 inch circle of cardstock. These are like our 1 3/4 inch sentiments. So you'll punch those out and put it on that circle and you tuck the sentiment right underneath. Or you could use stamped images or you could use die cut images. I just think these are a great, quick and easy like card sentiment and card layout. So this is in there for you. Again, we're still talking about the free kit. And then we get our strip sentiments. So these are about a 1/4 inch. There are tick marks on the side to help you cut them out. They come in 4 fonts. We have 2 fairly whimsical fonts. And then we get a scripty font that I love for Christmas and a classic serif font. Next, we have those same sentiments, but this time I've added little icons into them so that you get that sort of image and sentiment all in one, and you're not trying to figure out how to fit all the pieces together. You don't have to fussy cut anything. These will also cut out with your 1 3/4 inch punch or die. We have it both with and without that printed circle. Next, we have some digital paper, and this is a little bit like glitter and a little bit like snow. I love this. This is slightly bigger than an A2 card panel, so you can get 2 full cards out of this. When they aren't like glitter backgrounds, it's more obvious that this one is sort of a vertical orientation and this one is landscape. But we have this in several colors. This red one, this might be my favorite. If your printer doesn't print as well as mine, try photo paper. This is matte photo paper. I'll link it below. But really any brand of like a matte photo paper or presentation paper will work better than your standard cardstock. I get mine on Amazon. So we have that in red. Then we have black glitter, which I love for Christmas. Yes, this is just plain paper. There's no actual glitter, but if you spray this, if you mist it with like a glitter spray, it looks even more like glitter. And then we have this lovely like gold, slightly into silver, slightly into white here that I love as well. So all of those pages, the digital paper, the sentiments with the icons in them, the tuck strip sentiments with those images, all of that is free in Patreon. I do have 4 tiers of paid membership in Patreon, and the lowest tier is $2 a month, and they're gonna get those same sentiments with icons, but then I've put a background in there to give it a little more visual interest. On the one that you get, I've moved everything a little closer to the middle because my printer was cutting that off a little bit, and I don't want it to do that to you. So you can see here on the red one, it just fits a little bit better, but we get that red glitter background. And then here, this is that sort of gold glitter background. And then this is a different background. There's just a little bit of like a rainbow coming in, a little red. And I love that as well. That $2 tier also gets our circle sentiments with a black background and our rectangle sentiments with a black background. And finally, they will get all of those strip sentiments, white text on black. These again will cut out at about 1/4 inch. You just use the tick marks on the side. The next tier is $5 a month. It includes a sketch database. So you have access to an online version of a database with all of the sketches I've released and the kits by theme. If you want to search the themes, you can hit Control and F or Command F on an Apple, and it will pop up a search box. And so you can type in any theme you might be looking for to see if it exists. Then there's also links directly into the videos where I released those kits so you can get back to them and download them. On our card sketch, down here at the bottom, there's an alternative that has almost like a Polaroid looking shape on it. And that's what these are for. There are 2 different versions of this page. This one, you're gonna cut apart at 3 inches, and then you'll cut them down the middle at 4 1/4, and you will get 6 different pieces that are exactly the size you need for that pink piece right here. I know that not everybody's computer prints super well or accurately. So this one, if you've printed the first page and you're like, that's not working, this one has tick marks. It can only hold 4 instead of 6. So depending on your printer, you know your printer best. You can print out whatever you think will work best. But we have do not open until December 25th. Christmas cocoa tastes the best. Snowman season is the best season. Merry Christmas witches, happy holiday wishes, and 'tis the season to be jolly. So then from here in the sort of picture space, you certainly could use stamped images or die cut images. I will probably print this onto some colored cardstock to dress that up a little bit, but I have some digital images for you that you can use the tick marks to cut out, and these will fit perfectly with these sentiments. Really, really quick and easy holiday cards. And I love the snowmen so much, and this red truck. I can't get over it, you guys. I want to know how you feel about this type of like sentiment digital image. Is that something you're as excited about as I am? Is that something you want more of, especially for holiday cards? I don't make my holiday cards super involved a lot of times because I make so many of them. So I am interested in doing more of that if you are interested. Then we have 16 pieces of holiday ephemera. These Santas are slightly different. There is a circle around them on this page, but then on the next page, I've removed that circle. And then there's one more page of that ephemera where I've given it a background, so you have a little more visual interest. Again, I try to make the circles here a little bigger than 1 3/4 inch, so you don't have to worry about lining it up just perfectly or accidentally ending up with a little bit of white around the edges of your circle. Then still at that $5 tier, it is jam-packed this time. I have a bunch of buffalo plaid pattern paper. Shout out to June who requested it, and I made one earlier and she was like, yes, that's it. This one I've made a slightly larger pattern, and we have it on blue, like a muted blue, on white, on red, and on green. And actually, if you have a borderless printer, those pages will print all the way to the edges. I did one borderless. My printer, you have to run a cleaning cycle if you do a lot of borderless printing, so I tend not to. But I love this new option for pattern paper. Let me know what you think, where it just goes all the way from edge to edge with the tiny little strip up top. So we have that pattern on white, we have it on muted blue, and then we have it on a nice wintry green. Our last one then is this beautiful winter house. I love the idea of like heat embossing a little stamped sentiment up there, or one kind of right up here, or maybe putting a strip sentiment there. These again are a little bigger than A2. At the $12 tier then, they get the same sketch database as that $5 tier, but added into that database are direct downloads. So you don't have to go back to the video if you don't want to. You just click the button and download the PDF. You can also download all of the circle and rectangle sentiments I have ever released as resizable sentiments. They're digital stamps with a transparent background. They're going to get 16 different pieces of ephemera. There's that red truck again that I love so much. And the snowman that was popping up in some other places, or he's going to be on some pattern paper in a minute, but I love these. So we get it with the circle printed around it. We get it without the circle. And then we get it with that lovely snowy background on some light blue. And then here's our paper that has the snowman from that same ephemera page. But these are different still. So this one is a little bigger than your A2 panel. And I used to do the same thing over here, but it would be landscape. But I make more portrait cards than landscape. Let me know what you do. So this one is big enough to go either direction. It's not 6x6. I played with lots of ways to get a 6x6 on here, but then this piece wasn't very usable. But hopefully this gives us more options for our card sizes and the way we use our pattern paper. So we have our snowman, and then I love these. We have a bunch of like Christmas cocoa or coffee or whatever fancy drinks. We have it with purple stripes and blue stripes, and then a different sort of shade of blue stripes, teal stripes, and there's a little bit of like snow in the background of some of these stripes that I love. And then here you get it without the images on top. You just get that sort of snowy striped background. It looks slightly odd to me when it's on this page with all the white around it, but when you cut it out and use it independently, it's really, really gorgeous. And I love this because it doesn't use a ton of ink. So then we have green, and then we have red. Our last membership tier is $25 a month. It gets the same sketch database as we saw for our Saskatoons, that $12 tier. So you have direct downloads of all of the PDF kits. You have resizable sentiments that are digital stamps with transparent images, but there's a second database. It is a spreadsheet with over 1,500 sentiments, and you can search by kit theme, you can search by wording in the sentiments, you can search by whether or not the kit has images. There is direct download of all of the kits, right? The PDFs, the resizable sentiments, but then you also get all of the image files, the digital paper and the ephemera pieces as resizable images. And you can crop out the ones you don't need and duplicate the ones that you want most. All right, we're gonna make 4 cards today, and this first one follows the sketch pretty closely. So we're starting with a piece of 4 by 5¼ inch pattern paper. That's from that $5 Sassy Supporter tier. And then I glued that onto an A2 panel in red. Then this pattern paper is in the Patreon free download, and it is 2 3/4 inch by 4 inches glued onto a piece of 3 by 4¼ inch. I have 2 snowmen die sets that we're using. So for this first card, it's the Slow Notes. That's the die set you saw first. And the second one is North Pole Sentiments. And we're actually not going to use the North Pole pieces because I ran out of time. I was going to make 6 cards today, but you guys, this is like a 30-something minute video. So we're doing 4, but there are really great sentiment options in there. These come together super quickly, and there's dies for absolutely everything, right? So I have 2 little black pieces that go on the back that are the inside of the mouth, and then the buttons. You could do the mouths in a different color, but this was really easy. And then we have scarves. It cuts out a whole bunch of scarf pieces all at the same time. There are actually 3 snowmen in this set, but because of the space we have, I'm only using 2. I have already assembled the one that will be on the left, and I just used my white acrylic Sharpie to add stripes to the green one, and then I'm doing polka dots on this red one. I have white gel pens, but I don't know. I'm often disappointed with them, and so I find I'm reaching for that Sharpie more and more. I'm sure any white acrylic paint pen would work. So I'm putting little pieces of the scarf together, and I like to put one of the pieces behind the neck wraparound piece. Does that make sense? And another piece in front, as if we had sort of tied a knot out of it. And then I'll add that onto my little snowman. I'm going to have both of my snowmen holding a book of carols that they're singing out of. Again, it's called the Slow Notes. And so I just think there's lots of really, really cute ways to use this, but you could use those books for not holiday, just for like a book themed card. I love that. And I love that the book is open. There are lots of different arm options to go with these snowmen, but I am using for both of them the same set because they're the ones that wrap around and kind of hold that book. If you use the trio of snowmen, it would work to have just the center snowman holding a book, and the other two can just like have their arms being all crazy. I don't know about you. I can't talk or sing without gesturing wildly. Like I just don't have it in me. So I thought about making a trio of snowmen that's me and my sisters. Two of us for sure are gesturing wildly. And then I have my youngest sister is the one who's going to like keep it all together and make sure that people get the job done. So I am going to glue these two onto my panel, and I'm going to overlap them a little bit. Part of it's to make them fit, but part of it is that I really like them sort of huddled close together for warmth. Do snowmen huddle for warmth? I think these do. And I love that their little carrot noses are sticking straight up in the air. There are 3 different noses, and doesn't matter which one goes on which snowman. I don't know that it does, but I picked the 2 that looked like they were angled ever so slightly, so they might fit best on these 2. I have some really thin 1mm foam behind that panel, and I have it all cattywampus to the side there. And then I'm actually using a slightly smaller sentiment mat here. It's 2 3/8 by 1 3/8 because I didn't want it to overlap the noses. We're using a rectangle sentiment for this card, and so we're going to just connect the tick marks on our trimmer. But as I slide that blade up, I'm not cutting all the way through. I'm leaving that top header intact because I need to be able to use the tick marks that are on the sides as well. So you can see I have these flaps, and then I just rotate. And again, I will line up those tick marks. My trimmer has a little wire guide, so I know when I have those perfectly lined up. And so actually I grabbed the sentiment I thought I was going to use, but I switched it. 'Tis the season to be jolly because they're singing, right? So I should have a sentiment that's also a song. And my friends, that is card number 1. You could put almost anything on there, whatever your favorite holiday die set is. I love the Slow Notes because it's so unique and so different. But this one, this is just the cutest little snowman you ever did see. So this is the North Pole Sentiments. I think this is a Simon Hurley set, but it's in collaboration with Spellbinder. So just like the other set, there are dies for absolutely everything. And I'm not trying to like guess how big of a little black strip I need to put back behind my snowman or paper piecing those tiny little buttons. Like I don't have it in me. I'm not doing that, right? They like to group dies together so that it helps you to know what they go with. So the cheeks, like rosy cheeks and the nose, are on the same die. If they were individual, I would lose them. So appreciate that. The mittens and the cuffs of the mittens are on the same die. The hat and like the poof ball, and then the fuzzy, it's not really the brim of the cap, right? But you know what I mean. The front part of the stocking cap, those are all on the same die, and I really appreciate that. There is an option for like a cowboy hat that you can put on this guy, which I think is hilarious. And then the sentiments that come in here are die cut sentiments. So we have Happy Holidays, Santa's Workshop, Merry Christmas, Let It Snow, North Pole, and Toy Shop. And there are 4 different sort of signpost options. So I'm just gluing all the pieces together. I opted for mittens, but you could skip those if you just wanted his little stick arms. He's so cute. He's so cute, you guys. And then we're going to work with these specialty sentiments. So these are going to cut out at 3 by 1 1/4. So I trimmed that first at 6 and then at 3, and then I'll rotate and I'll cut at 4 1/4. It is that easy. My printer stays pretty true to the size that it should. Some printers that I've had in the past will like feed a little bit through first. And so things might be shifted up or down or a little to the left or a little to the right. So try it out. I like being able to get 6 full pieces out of that. Then I'm coming in with a smaller piece, that sort of Polaroid piece, if you will. And this is 2 3/4 by 3 inches. It's a white shimmer cardstock. I just get it from Michael's. And part of why I love this is that I can use a dye ink and blend on top of it, and it will dry and dry pretty quickly, where a lot of specialty cardstocks, if you try to ink blend on them, will never dry. But you can see the really great shine on this piece. And then I left this clip in because I want you to pay attention to the piece on the right that we're not using. Look how much is left. I'm cutting this slightly larger than I normally would. So this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. We're going to have the tiniest little border around the outside of it. But I'm really loving that new option. And part of why I'm able to do that now is that I'm using a different software to create my seamless patterns. And I really, really love that. So I have just glued our 2 panels together, and now I'm adding an extra piece in. I wanted more contrast between that light blue and my background. So that piece of navy cardstock is going to be 3 1/8 by 4 3/8. Then similarly, I'm adding a little sort of mat around this piece that is 2 3/4 by 3 inches. So I just added 1/8 of an inch to both of those measurements as well. Some of those light blue rectangles where we have our printed sentiments, some of them have 2 lines of text and some of them have 3 lines of text. For the ones with 2 lines of text, it's really easy to add another matte layer. On the ones with 3 lines of text, it gets a little tight. So just a heads up there. I am using a white gel pen and struggle bussing, if I'm honest. But this is my number 10 jelly roll. And I'm just adding some little stars in the background. I felt like this needed just a little something extra. I might even go in later and add just a little like few gems in there. Then I have some stickles. It's just the sort of clear glitter stickles. And I'm putting that down at the bottom to sort of differentiate snow from sky. Then I have a small action wobbler. This is one that I've had for years and years. And friends, I have to tell you, don't trust the adhesive on an action wobbler. It doesn't matter who's selling them. It's just that it's a dry adhesive that will dry out over time. A lot of dry adhesives will. And so you'll see I sort of took some of the adhesive that was on there off, put glue on it. And actually I set that aside for 3 or 4 minutes before I picked it up and put it onto the back of my snowman. I also added a circle of plain white cardstock just to give myself a really level surface. I'm going to do the same thing with this other side. So I glued the hard side that has less contact area to the snowman. And then this is a clear side. I like that clear side on my card actually. And you can see like I'm putting the rest of my card together and it's still sitting there with glue on it. I want it to get a little bit tacky before I try to put that on my card. But yeah, I just know from experience, I have a lot of cards in my stash with wobblers and sometimes they fall off if they don't also have glue. But here we have card number 2, and I just love like the bounce and wiggle that you get from a wobbler. And he's really quick and easy. For cards 3 and 4, we're really not doing any die cutting or very, very minimal die cutting. I am using these ephemera pieces that are at that $5 Patreon membership level, and I'm using the tick marks to cut it out. If I was going to do this again, I think I would start with the piece in landscape, cutting up towards the header at the top. There's just more header there instead of like the way I'm doing it, where I'm having to like be really careful when I get all the way up at the top and then be really careful as I'm lining up to get the side tick marks in there. In the end, it's not a big deal. They cut out just fine, but it would be less fiddly if I did it the other way. I put 3 of these together right away, and you can see here, like this one says, do not open until December 25th. And with the 3 lines of text and that extra matte layer, this fit best by putting it all the way at the top of the light blue panel. I think it still looks great, but it gave the sentiment a little more room to breathe. I really didn't intend to be adding that extra layer. And yet I did it on all of them. Y'all, sometimes I don't know. But I'm just going to show you the first 2 here since those are put together slightly differently. We're going to use the truck for card number 3, and I'm just using our red buffalo plaid. That one again is at that $5 membership tier, and I'm adding it onto an A2 panel. I cut that plaid at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So we get that teeny tiny little margin that matches the margin between the red cardstock and the blue cardstock that has our sentiment on it. This was so quick. I was like, might as well add some gems. I love the Spellbinders ones because the smallest ones are teeny tiny, and I just think they're amazing. I think they're adorable. So here we go. Card number 3 is completely finished. For card number 4, I am using a panel that I cut out of some pattern paper that's, again, at that $5 tier. That's really, you're getting a ton of value at that tier this month. And I'm using the new Spellbinders Splatter effects. They have one in Sparkle and one in Raven. These remind me of the Fun Stampers Journey splatter bottles. I have a bunch of those still, but I just sort of splattered that all over. I love that there's a brush already in there, and so it's really tidy, like I didn't have to do much. Then for my matte layer, you're only going to see a tiny little bit of this, so I didn't want to cut glitter cardstock. I just took some black cardstock and used my scrapbook.com black glitter pen around the outside edges. I'm going to set that aside to dry, but look at how gorgeous that is. Because I don't want this to just look like printed paper glued onto a card. We're going to keep stepping up this background, right? So we splattered on it already, and then I'm using a product that I got from Stampin' Up, but actually the original, the first time I saw this, it was not being sold through Stampin' Up. It's the Marvy Snow Marker. I don't think Stampin' Up sells theirs anymore. If they do, I'll link theirs too. But what this is a liquid that you put on, and while it is still wet, you take your heat gun to it, and as you heat it up, it puffs up and kind of looks like snow. Couple of things to keep in mind. You want it to still be wet when you heat it. I'm pushing it right now because I put a lot on there, and some of it's going to start to dry before I get it all heated. And then also you don't want to overheat it. If you overheat it, it deflates. So it's hard to see. I'm trying to work quickly and make sure that I move on as soon as I see it puff up, but I'll give you a really good shot of it. You can start to see it at the bottom of the panel in that sort of thick snowy area, but it is just this wonderful texture. If you run it through the mail, it is going to get sort of crushed. It will have visual texture, but it will lose some of the actual texture. So here it is. And then I'm going to glue the 2 panels together, right? So we have the one that's our A2 panel that we put our black glitter marker on. By the way, there's a black luster brush and a black glitter marker at scrapbook.com, and they look the same online. Make sure you're looking at the glitter marker, okay? Once I get those 2 put together, I'm going to come in with another layer for our snow just to really bring out that texture and make it extra special. Here we have our clear stickles again. You guys, I have so many pastes and things that dry out, but like before I get a chance to use them all. So a while back, I started adding dates to them when I bought them. I bought this stickles in April of 2021. And it is still great. Like I have to declog it with my little pin most of the time when I go to use it, but I am very pleasantly surprised. So if you hem and haw about pastes and things because they dry out, the stickles are a winner. I'm just using my finger to kind of spread the stickles around because there's so much texture on there. I don't want it to clump up too much, but it's got that really great shine and texture now. For my sentiment, I'm just going to use a strip sentiment at the top of the card, and I love this scripty font for the holidays. I mean, I love it all the time, but I love it a lot here. So I trim either side so the tick marks are touching the edge of the paper, and then I can just line those up on the blade of my trimmer. Then I'll use the finger guard as a way to sort of visually make sure that the text is as close to the edge on both sides, if that makes sense. I have a scrap of cardstock I'm going to put right behind there. I like it too thick, right? That way it just has a little more weight. It feels a little more substantial and a little less like something I printed out on paper and slapped on my card, right? Just that extra dimension, tiniest little bit of dimension, I think makes a big difference. I'm adding that onto some black glitter cardstock, and then I'll go around the outside edges with a black alcohol marker or Sharpie would work great here, just so that that whole piece looks black from the side, since it's going on a really dark navy panel. This is the Holiday Scene die set from Pink and Main. I got this last fall, and I love this like Santa and reindeer piece. It is super cute and a little bigger than some of the other die sets I've seen that have a similar piece. And so I'm going to put this going sort of above the chimney of our house, and then I'll be able to sort of nest our sentiment right in there. I'm just cutting it out of black. I did another card last year. I think I only made a reel where I have that sort of set of reindeer flying across the moon, as we do. As we do. And then I will just add my sentiment with glue. If you're interested in seeing the other card, I can try to link the reel below, but I think I have footage to actually edit it for a full tutorial. But that is card number 4, my friends. Look at all that texture in that snow. Let me know in the comments below what you think of that new specialty sentiment style and which card is your favorite. If you're interested in the free printables, everything you need is linked in the description box below the video. All I ask is that you subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.